I'm Darius Thurman, and I drive trucks for a living. Big rigs that haul everything from furniture to electronics across state lines. It's not glamorous work, but it pays the bills and keeps food on the table for my family back in Georgia. I spend most of my life on highways, watching white lines blur past, while the radio keeps me company through the lonely nights. This particular trip had me gone for 2 weeks straight. Denver to Atlanta with stops in between. The whole time, I kept thinking about getting home to my boy Ethan. He's 7 years old, with eyes just like mine, and a smile that could light up the whole neighborhood. I'd been calling home every night, but something felt off in those conversations. Nia, my wife, kept them short, said Ethan was tired or doing homework. I told myself I was being paranoid, that missing my family was just making me imagine problems that weren't there. I finished my delivery route 3 days early, which meant I could surprise them. The thought of seeing Ethan's face when I walked through that door kept me driving through the night. I barely stopped, except for gas and coffee. My body ached from sitting so long, but my heart felt light knowing I'd be home soon. I pulled into our driveway around noon on a Thursday. Nia's car wasn't there, which meant she was still at work at the dental office. Perfect timing to surprise Ethan after school. I used my key to let myself in, already imagining my son running into my arms yelling, "Daddy's home!" But the house was quiet. Too quiet. "Ethan?" I called out, dropping my duffel bag by the door. "You here, buddy?" Nothing. I checked the kitchen first, then the living room. His backpack sat by the couch, so he was definitely home from school. Maybe he was napping or playing in his room. I headed down the hallway, my work boots heavy on the hardwood floor. "Ethan? It's Dad. I came home early to A." I heard it then, a small whimper coming from his bedroom. Not the sound of play or sleep, something else, something that made my stomach drop. I pushed open his door and found his room empty. His bed was made too perfectly, like no child actually slept in it. His toys were lined up on the shelf with military precision. The whole space felt wrong, sterile. Nothing like the messy, lived-in room I remembered from 2 weeks ago. Another whimper. I spun around and saw the closet door slightly ajar. My heart started pounding as I walked over and pulled it open. There he was, my son, my baby boy, curled up in the corner of his closet behind the hanging clothes, hugging his knees to his chest. His face was streaked with tears, and his whole body was shaking. "Ethan?" I dropped to my knees. "What are you doing in there, buddy? What's wrong?" He looked up at me and flinched. Actually flinched away from me like I was going to hurt him. That look in his eyes, pure terror, it cut through me like a knife. Hey, it's okay. It's just Dad. I'm home." I reached out slowly, keeping my voice soft. "Come here, come to Daddy." Ethan hesitated, his eyes darting toward the bedroom door like he expected someone else to appear. Then he crawled out of the closet and into my arms. I held him close, feeling how thin he'd gotten, how his little heart was racing like a frightened bird. That's when I saw them. Bruises, dark purple and yellow marks covering his upper arms. I gently lifted his shirt, and my blood went cold. More bruises across his back and ribs. Some fresh, some healing. These weren't from playground roughhousing. I'd seen enough bar fights during my younger days to know what these were. Handprints. Someone had grabbed my son hard enough to leave finger-shaped bruises on his small body. Someone had hurt him, and hurt him badly. "Ethan, who did this to you?" My voice came out rougher than I intended. "Who hurt you, son?" He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Just more tears. He buried his face against my chest and sobbed, his whole body trembling in my arms. I heard the front door open. Nia's voice called out cheerfully, "Ethan, I'm home. Did you finish your homework?" My son went rigid in my arms. His fingers clutched my shirt so tight his knuckles turned white. And in that moment, watching my boy's face transform from relief at seeing me to absolute terror at hearing his mother's voice. I knew. The person who hurt my son wasn't some stranger or school bully. It was her. I sat on that closet floor, holding Ethan for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. His whole body stayed tense, coiled like a spring ready to snap. Nia's footsteps came down the hallway, and I felt my son's breathing go shallow and quick. She appeared in the doorway, her face showing surprise when she saw me. "Darius, what are you doing home? I thought you weren't due back until Sunday." I looked up at her. This woman I'd married 8 years ago. This woman I'd trusted with our son's life. Finished early. Wanted to surprise you both. Nia's eyes moved to Ethan in my arms, then to his exposed back where the bruises were visible. Something flickered across her face just for a second, before her expression smoothed into concern. "Oh, sweetie, did you show Daddy your bruises?" She walked into the room like nothing was wrong. "He's been so clumsy lately. Just yesterday he fell off the monkey bars at school. The teacher called me about it." I slowly stood up, keeping Ethan close. "These aren't from monkey bars, Nia." "Well, you've been gone for 2 weeks. Her voice had an edge now. "Maybe if you were here more often, you'd know he's been having accidents. Growing pains make kids awkward at this age. Growing pains, accidents." Her explanations came too quickly, too practiced, like she'd been preparing these answers for a while. "Ethan, go wash your face, baby," I said softly. My son looked up at me with those terrified eyes, then at his mother, then scrambled out of my arms and ran to the bathroom down the hall. Once he was gone, I turned to Nia. "Those are handprints on his arms. Don't be ridiculous. You're tired from driving. You're seeing things that aren't there. I know what handprints look like." She crossed her arms. "So, now you're accusing me of something? After I've been here alone taking care of our son while you're off driving all over the country? Do you know how hard it is managing a child by myself? I work to provide for this family. And I'm here doing the actual parenting." Her voice rose. "Ethan's been difficult lately. Acting out, not listening, being disrespectful. Sometimes discipline looks rough, but that's what happens when a child needs correction and his father's never around to help." I stared at her, really looked at her. The woman standing in front of me was a stranger. How had I missed this? How long had this been happening? "I want to take him to a doctor. Get him checked out." "He's fine, Darius. Stop being dramatic. Tomorrow morning, we're taking him to get examined." Nia's jaw tightened, but she nodded. "Fine. Waste money on a doctor visit if it makes you feel better. They'll tell you the same thing I did. Active boys get bruises." That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Nia, listening to her breathe, wondering how many nights Ethan had gone to sleep afraid. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and went to check on him. I pushed open his door quietly. Ethan was awake, staring at the ceiling. "Can't sleep either, buddy?" I whispered. He shook his head. I sat on the edge of his bed. In the dim glow of his nightlight, I noticed things I'd missed before. His favorite dinosaur toy on the floor, broken in half. Drawings scattered under his desk. I picked one up and my chest tightened. Stick figures. A big one with an angry red face. A small one on the ground with tears. Black and red scribbles all over the page. "Did you draw this?" Ethan pulled his blanket up to his chin and nodded. "Can you tell Daddy what it means?" He looked toward the door, making sure it was closed, then whispered so quietly I almost couldn't hear. "The big one is mad. The little one is me. The red is when it hurts." My hands started shaking. "When what hurts, Ethan?" "When I'm bad. When I make mistakes. When I'm too loud or too messy or too anything." His voice cracked. "I try to be good, Daddy. I really try." I pulled him into my arms, feeling tears burn behind my eyes. "You are good. You're perfect. None of this is your fault. Will you stay home now? Please don't leave again. I have another trip on Monday, but..." His whole body went rigid. "No. Please, no. Don't leave me here." The fear in his voice made my decision. I couldn't confront Nia without proof. If I accused her and had nothing solid, she could make me look crazy. She could get custody. She could hurt him worse. I needed evidence. Real, undeniable evidence. The next morning, I told Nia my company called with an urgent delivery. Had to leave immediately. She looked relieved. Ethan's face crumbled when I told him, but I squeezed his hand and whispered, "Trust, Daddy." I drove to the nearest electronics store and bought the smallest, most hidden camera I could find. Then, I circled back home while Nia was at work. I installed it on Ethan's bookshelf, hidden behind a picture frame, angled perfectly to capture the whole room. 2 hours later, I was in my truck 50 miles outside Atlanta, parked at a rest stop. My phone sat in my lap, the camera app loaded and ready. My finger hovered over the live feed button. I pressed play, and what I saw made my blood turn to ice. The first hour of footage showed nothing unusual. Ethan came home from school, dropped his backpack, and sat at his desk doing homework. Nia came home 30 minutes later. I watched her walk into his room, smiling. Then Ethan knocked over his cup of water while reaching for a pencil. Everything changed. Nia's face transformed. The smile vanished, and something dark replaced it. She grabbed Ethan by his upper arm right where those handprints were and yanked him out of his chair so hard he stumbled. I couldn't hear the audio clearly, but I saw her mouth moving, yelling. Ethan tried to say something and she slapped him across the face. I gripped my phone so hard the screen protector cracked. She slapped him again, then again. Ethan's head snapped to the side with each hit. He started crying, and she grabbed his face, squeezing his cheeks. Then she disappeared from view and came back with duct tape. She tore off a strip and pressed it over his mouth while he struggled. My wife, the woman I'd made vows with, forced our 7-year-old son into the corner and made him stand there facing the wall. She pointed at him, said something that made him go completely still, then left the room. I sat in my truck, watching my son stand in that corner for 3 hours, not moving, not sitting, just standing there, with tape over his mouth and tears running down his face. When Nia finally came back, she ripped the tape off without warning. Ethan cried out, and she hit him on the back of his head. Then she made him get ready for bed at 6 in the evening. No dinner, nothing. I wanted to drive home right then, bust through that door and take my son away. But something stopped me. One video might not be enough. Courts could say it was a one-time thing, a moment of frustration. I needed more. I needed a pattern. So I watched. For 3 days I barely slept, barely ate. I'd pull over at rest stops and watch the live feed during every break. I documented everything with screenshots and recordings, times, dates, descriptions, building a case that no judge could ignore. Day 2 showed Nia making Ethan skip breakfast as punishment for not making his bed perfectly. She inspected the corners like a drill sergeant, then made him redo it 5 times. When he finally got it right, she messed it up and made him start over, laughing while he cried. Day 3 was the worst. Ethan wet the bed during the night. I watched him wake up scared, trying to strip the sheets quietly before Nia found out. But she came in for her morning inspection and discovered the wet mattress. She dragged him out of bed by his hair, hit him with a wooden spoon on his legs until red welts appeared. Then she made him sleep on the floor that night without blankets or pillows. In the video, I could see him shivering, curled up on the hard wood, trying to stay warm. Each video broke something inside me. The guilt crushed my chest until I couldn't breathe. This had been happening for months while I drove trucks across the country. While I worked overtime to buy Ethan new toys and clothes. While I thought I was being a good provider. I'd failed to protect my son from the monster living in our house. On the 4th day, I called Kevin. My brother-in-law answered on the 2nd ring. "Darius? Everything okay?" "No. Nothing's okay. My voice cracked. Kevin, I need your help. It's about Ethan. I told him everything. Sent him the videos. Heard him curse on the other end of the line, his voice getting harder and angrier with each clip he watched. That woman put her hands on that boy? Kevin's voice was deadly quiet. On your son? I need to get him out of there. But I need to do this right, legal. So she can't take him back. When are you coming home? I'm heading back now. Can you meet me there Saturday morning? Early? Before she's awake? I'll be there at 6. And Darius, we're getting that boy out of there. Whatever it takes. I drove through the night, my mind racing with plans. The videos were saved to cloud storage, backed up 3 times. I had documentation, timestamps, everything organized. But the most important thing was getting Ethan somewhere safe. The miles disappeared under my wheels. Every hour brought me closer to home, closer to my son. I thought about how scared he must be, wondering if I abandoned him, wondering if I believed his mother over him. I'm coming, buddy, I whispered to the empty cab. Daddy's coming to get you. Just hold on a little longer. My truck ate up the highway. The sun rose and set. I stopped only for gas and coffee. By Friday night, I was in Georgia, parked at Kevin's house. He answered the door, looking grim. You ready for tomorrow? He asked. I nodded. Let's go get my son. We sat up planning every detail. What we'd say. What we'd do if Nia resisted. When to call the police. Kevin checked his tools, including a lockpick set from his construction work. That bedroom door better not be locked from the outside, Kevin said darkly. But somehow I knew it would be. Because that's what monsters do. They lock children in cages and call it discipline. Tomorrow morning, the cage was opening, and Ethan was coming home to where he belonged. With me. Saturday morning came with gray skies that matched my mood. Kevin and I sat in his truck down the street from my house at 5:30, drinking coffee that tasted like dirt. Neither of us had slept much. You sure about the timing? Kevin asked. Nia sleeps until 8 on Saturdays. Always has. We go in at 6, get Ethan, and we're gone before she even knows what's happening. And if she wakes up, then we deal with it. But my son's not spending another minute in that house. At exactly 6 o'clock, we pulled into the driveway. The neighborhood was quiet, most people still asleep. I used my key to unlock the front door, and we stepped inside. The house smelled like cleaning products and something else underneath. Fear, maybe. Or secrets. We moved down the hallway toward Ethan's room. My heart hammered against my ribs. Then I saw it, and rage flooded through me. So fast I saw red. A sliding bolt lock on the outside of his door, installed recently by the look of the fresh wood screws. She'd been locking our son in his room at night. Kevin saw it too, and his jaw clenched. He pulled out his tools and had that lock off in 30 seconds. The door swung open. Ethan was on the floor exactly where I'd seen him in the camera feed. No blanket, no pillow. Curled up in pajamas that were too small, arms wrapped around himself for warmth. His eyes were closed, but he wasn't really sleeping. More like shut down, trying to escape into himself. Ethan, I whispered, kneeling beside him. Baby, it's Dad. His eyes opened. For a second, there was nothing in them. Then recognition hit, and his whole face crumbled. He threw himself at me, sobbing so hard no sound came out. Just these horrible, gasping breaths, like he'd forgotten how to cry properly. I held him while he shook. Kevin stood in the doorway, keeping watch, his hands balled into fists. I've got you now, I said into Ethan's hair. Daddy's here. You're safe. I'm not leaving you again. Promise? His voice was barely a whisper. I promise. We're leaving right now, and you're never coming back here. Footsteps in the hallway. Kevin stepped aside and Nia appeared, wearing her bathrobe, hair messy from sleep. Her eyes went from me to Kevin to Ethan in my arms. I watched her brain work, calculating what story to tell. Darius, what are you doing? Why is Kevin here? She used her sweet voice, the one she showed everyone else. Baby, come here. Let mommy. Don't. My voice came out hard as stone. Don't call him that. Don't talk to him. Don't even look at him. Her expression shifted. Excuse me? This is my house, and that's my son. Your son? I stood up, keeping Ethan behind me. The son you've been beating? The one you lock in his room at night? That son? I don't know what he's been telling you, but children exaggerate. He's dramatic. I pulled out my phone and played one of the videos, the one where she hit him with the wooden spoon. The audio came through crystal clear, her voice screaming that he was worthless, his cries begging her to stop. All the color drained from Nia's face. You recorded me? In my own house? Her voice went shrill. That's illegal. You can't use that. Actually, I can. Georgia's a one-party consent state. I own this house too, so I can record in it legally. And I've got 3 days of footage showing exactly what you've been doing to our son. She lunged for my phone, but Kevin stepped between us. Don't, he said quietly. Don't make this worse. Nia's face twisted with rage. You abandoned us. You're never here. I had to handle everything alone. Do you know how hard it is raising a child by myself while you're off driving around? So you beat him? You taped his mouth shut? You made him sleep on the floor? He needed discipline. He was getting out of control. Someone had to be the parent. You're done being anything to him. I started toward the front door with Ethan. Kevin already called the police. They're on their way. That was when Nia really lost it. She started screaming about how I was kidnapping our son, how she'd tell everyone I was unstable, how no court would believe me over her. She grabbed for Ethan, but Kevin caught her arm. Ma'am, you need to step back. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Ethan pressed his face against my chest, his fingers clutching my shirt. I felt him trembling and held him tighter. 2 police cars pulled up. 4 officers got out, and Kevin met them at the door, explaining the situation while I stayed with Ethan. One of the officers, a woman with kind eyes, approached us carefully. Hi there, son. I'm Officer Jenkins. Can you tell me your name? Ethan looked up at me and I nodded. Ethan, he whispered. Ethan, I need to ask you some questions. Is that okay? He nodded slowly. Did someone hurt you? Another nod. Can you show me where it hurts? Ethan pulled up his sleeves, showing the bruises. Then he lifted his shirt, showing his back and ribs. Officer Jenkins's face went hard. She called over another officer with a camera who documented every mark. Meanwhile, 2 other officers talked to Nia, who'd switched back to her sweet voice, explaining about difficult discipline and misunderstandings. But when they asked to see the videos, her story started falling apart. They asked about the lock on Ethan's door. She said it was for his safety. They asked why he was sleeping on the floor. She said he chose to. Every answer contradicted the video evidence. Ma'am, we need you to come with us, one officer finally said. This is ridiculous. I'm being arrested for parenting my own child? You're being detained while we investigate child abuse allegations. They put handcuffs on her. Nia screamed the whole way to the police car about lawyers and false accusations and how I'd pay for this. Ethan watched from my arms, not crying anymore, just watching with those hollow eyes. Child Protective Services arrived 20 minutes later. A woman named Mrs. Chen, with gray hair and a gentle smile. She examined Ethan, took statements, and reviewed the videos on my phone. Her expression grew grimmer with each clip. Mr. Thurman, we'll need to conduct a full investigation, but based on what I'm seeing here, I'm approving emergency custody to you. Your son will not be returning to his mother's care. Those words hit me like a weight lifting off my chest. Ethan was safe. Finally, truly safe. We left that house and never looked back. 6 months passed, like a slow exhale after holding your breath too long. Everything changed. But the changes came in small pieces, not all at once. I quit long-haul trucking the week after we rescued Ethan. Took a job with a local delivery company instead. The pay was almost half what I used to make, but I was home every single night by 6 o'clock. Money meant nothing if I wasn't there to protect my son. We moved into a small apartment across town. 2 bedrooms, nothing fancy, but it was ours. Clean slate, new beginning. I let Ethan pick out his own bedsheets he chose, ones covered in dinosaurs, and we filled his room with toys and books. No locks on any doors except the front entrance. The legal process dragged on for months. Court dates, lawyers, testimonies. Nia's expensive attorney tried everything to make me look bad. Said I was an absent father. Said I manipulated the evidence. Said Ethan was coached to lie. But Judge Whitfield wasn't buying it. She reviewed every video, every medical report, every photograph of bruises and welts. She spoke to Ethan privately in her chambers, just the 2 of them. And whatever my son told her sealed the decision. Full custody to me. Nia got nothing except supervised visitation if she completed anger management and parenting classes. She never did. Too proud to admit she needed help. The criminal trial came next. 3 counts of child abuse. The prosecutor laid everything out: videos, medical evidence, Dr. Owens's testimony about the psychological damage. Nia's lawyer tried to paint her as an overwhelmed single parent who made mistakes under pressure. The jury took 2 hours to convict her on all counts. 3 years in prison plus mandatory counseling. When the judge read the sentence, Nia finally cried. Not for what she'd done to Ethan, for herself. Ethan and I sat in the back of the courtroom. He didn't react when he heard the sentence, just squeezed my hand tighter. "Is it really over?" he asked on the drive home. "Yeah, buddy, it's really over." But healing doesn't happen in courtrooms. Real healing happened in the quiet moments at home. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Ethan had therapy with Dr. Owens. At first, he wouldn't talk, just sat there drawing pictures while she asked gentle questions. Slowly, bit by bit, he started opening up, telling her things he'd never told me, things that made me want to put my fist through a wall. The nightmares were the hardest part. 3 or 4 times a week, Ethan would wake up screaming. I'd run to his room and find him tangled in his sheets, crying for help. It always took a while to convince him he was safe, that no one was going to hurt him. Dr. Owen said it would take time. Trauma doesn't heal quickly. But there were good days too. Days when Ethan laughed at something silly on TV. Days when he asked if his friend from school could come over. Days when he drew pictures with bright colors, instead of angry red and black scribbles. Kevin visited every Sunday for dinner. He became the uncle Ethan needed, teaching him to throw a football and fix things with tools. Having another stable man in his life made a difference. I learned things I'd never known before. How to braid hair badly at first, but I got better. How to help with math homework when I barely remembered fractions myself. How to tell when Ethan was having a bad day before he said anything. The trust between us rebuilt slowly. He still got nervous when I had to work late. Still asked 3 times if I was really coming home. Still needed reassurance that I wasn't leaving him again. "I'm not going anywhere," I told him every single time. "You're stuck with me, kid." That usually made him smile. Nia sent letters from prison, long ones filled with apologies and excuses. I kept them in a box in my closet, unopened. Maybe someday when Ethan was older and if he wanted to read them, he could. But that was his choice to make, not mine. For now, we focused on today, on building something better. I started speaking at community centers and churches, sharing our story, warning other parents about the signs I'd missed, encouraging fathers not to assume everything was fine just because their partner said so, teaching people to trust their instincts when something felt wrong. If your child seems afraid of someone they should feel safe with, investigate. I'd tell the audiences, if behavior changes drastically, ask questions. If you see injuries that don't match the explanation, dig deeper. Don't wait. Don't assume. Don't trust blindly. Some people thanked me afterward, saying my story opened their eyes. A few even came back later to tell me they'd discovered abuse in their own families because they'd learned to see the signs. It didn't erase what happened to Ethan, but it gave our pain some purpose. One Saturday morning, 6 months after everything began, I woke up to the smell of burnt toast. I walked into the kitchen and found Ethan standing on a stool at the counter, trying to make breakfast. The toast was black, and the eggs were somehow both runny and overcooked. "I wanted to surprise you," he said, looking worried that I'd be mad about the mess. "This is the best surprise ever, buddy." We sat at our small kitchen table eating terrible toast and laughing about how bad the eggs tasted. Sunshine came through the window, warm and bright. Ethan's dinosaur toys were scattered across the living room floor. New drawings covered the refrigerator, pictures of the two of us playing catch, pictures of our apartment, pictures with smiling suns and rainbows. "Dad?" Ethan said between bites of burnt toast. "Yeah? I'm happy now." 3 simple words that meant everything. I reached across the table and ruffled his hair. "Me too, son. Me too." We weren't perfect. We still had hard days ahead. Therapy would continue for years. The scars, both kinds, would take a long time to fully heal. But we were together. We were safe. And Ethan knew, without any doubt, that I would protect him with everything I had. That morning, watching my son smile without fear in his eyes, I made a silent promise to always be present, to always listen, to never miss another sign, to be the father and protector he deserved from the start. Some mistakes you can't undo. Sometime you can't get back. But you can choose to do better going forward. And that's exactly what I intended to do every single day for the rest of my life.